Hello everyone. Today we are basically going to learn about secured shell, that is SSH. Okay, suppose if you are actually having the two laptops with you, okay, and say one of the laptop want to basically connect with the other laptop, and you basically want to run certain commands on top of the other laptop. Say this is laptop A and this is laptop B. Okay, and this laptop somehow wants to connect to this other laptop so that they can actually run some kind of a program, or they can run some kind of a command on top of this particular laptop, right? So in that case, what happened is, so either you need to so if you basically want to run anything on top of that particular system, so there are two things: either you need to be physically present in front of this system, or you need some kind of a physical connectivity from laptop B to laptop A, so that they would be able to actually run some kind of a program on top of this particular laptop, which will actually utilize the RAM and CPU and the hard disk of this particular physical laptop. So you need some kind of a physical connectivity, that is the physical connectivity, and that physical connectivity is actually known as a network. So you need some kind of a networking connection from B to A, so that you will be actually able to run this particular program in front of that into this particular system, right? So now you will might say that why do I want to run this particular laptop? Say this could be possible that you are actually traveling somewhere and you actually have a requirement that suddenly, all of a sudden, you have to somehow run certain kind of a program in system A, right? But right now what is happening is you cannot carry your laptop everywhere along with you, right? So in that case, what is the possibility? Say this could be thing that this is instead of this laptop, it could be your VM. Okay, it could be your VM, and you cannot carry your VM everywhere along with you, right? So you need some kind of a remote activity, or you need some kind of a physical connectivity with your laptop, and it's not possible for you to come from somewhere and then sit on your laptop and then you can run program on this particular system. That is also not possible for you. Okay, in that case, so you need some kind of a program that will actually provide you the facility, or that will actually give you the facility to run any kind of a program that will help you in running the program on top of this system. Okay, and so in that case, for doing this, you actually need to install some kind of a remote execution program. Okay, some kind of a remote execution kind of a program, right? Some kind of a remote execution program. That means just from somewhere, just by sitting remotely, you will be actually be able to run anything on top of your system. And in that case, for doing that, you actually need to install some kind of a remote execution program, which will actually provide you with an interface. Okay, which will actually provide you with an interface, or that will help you to connect with the interface or the terminal of this particular laptop, so that you can actually run that particular program. And this the program which actually provide you with the interface, those kind of a program are called the remote execution program. Okay, those programs are actually called the remote execution program. And since this program is actually giving you a facility or a service to you, okay, so that is the reason why this kind of a program is also known as a service. Okay, why? Because it is actually providing you one facility to connect remotely from anywhere all across the world. Okay, and to basically run the commands on top of this particular system. So it is giving a remote execution kind of a program facility, right? So, and I already told you in my previous class that any program which actually give you the facility, or which actually provide the any kind of a service, those kind of a programs are called the server side of a program. And the program which is running on top of that particular system are called the servers, or that system itself is called a server, because they are providing some kind of a facility or some kind of services to you. All right, and so in the market there are different kind of in this case, what is happening is, one more thing, in this case what is happening is, your system B is actually your client, who actually wants to connect to this particular system A, which is actually your server. Okay, and in the market, what is happening is there are different types of remote execution program that actually comes in the market. They provide you the facility, okay, to basically connect to your computer remotely, and they provide you with the interface of that particular laptop wherever this particular program is running, so that you can actually run any kind of a program or anything which will actually utilize the compute devices of that particular server instead of your laptop. Okay, so the different kind of a tools that are there in the market, one of the tools, and this kind of a remote execution program, it actually runs on port number 22. Okay, this kind of a program runs on port number 22, and program one of the program name is RSH. Okay, one of the program name is RSH. But RSH is a very unsecured access. Okay, that means anyone can easily hack your particular device if you are using an RS protocol. That means if you are using the RS remote execution program. One of the program is Telnet. Okay, so previously there were a lot of companies which were actually using the RSH, but since it was having a lot of flaws currently, because of which companies shifted to some modern kind of remote execution program. One of the execution program is your telnet. Okay, but if you use your telnet directly, right, it is also unsecured, so it is always recommended to use your telnet with some kind of a VPC and all, some kind of a VPC and all. Okay. Other one of the remote execution program is your SSH, which most of the modern organization, most of the companies, and most of the project are actually using this particular SSH because it actually provide a secured connectivity. It actually provide a secured connectivity to your servers. Okay. Today in secured connectivity to your servers. Today we are actually going to look into the SSH. Okay, which most of the enterprise applications or bigger companies are actually using SSH, and the full form of SSH is actually the secured shell. That means any if you want to connect to any particular Linux devices. Okay, as you know that Linux, whatever the command, the best way to actually work with the Linux is to work with the Linux terminal, which is also called the Bash shell, or which is also called the Bash shell or genome terminal, right? Since it is this particular program is actually providing you with a shell to run that particular command, because you cannot go to the program directly and start running it. You always need some kind of interface where you can go and start running the program. Okay, so that is the reason why you actually need a secure shell to basically run the program. Okay, now what is happening is, as I told you, to configure any particular application as an remote execution program, you need to follow the 3 steps, as I already told you in the first in the last class, that install the software. First of all, we have to install the software which will actually provide you with the remote execution kind of a program. And by default, the program that we are actually going to use is SSD only. Okay, since it is also a daemon program which is actually running on port number 22. Okay, this program is running on port number 22. If you want, you can also change the port number of this particular program. Okay, that is by going to the configuration file of SSH and changing it out. Second is your configure your particular configure your software, configure your software, or configure your particular remote execution program. Okay, remote execution program, REP means remote execution program. And third is your start your service, and start your service. Okay, so this is what you have to do on the server side. Okay, now after doing all these 3 steps, what you need to do is, suppose if you are after your computer has been configured as a remote execution program service, now at the client end also, at the client end, what you need to do is you actually need to install a client side program, client side program. Okay, which actually understand this as a remote execution program. So you actually need to install the client side program, and the second thing is actually you need to have some kind of a connectivity. Correct. And one more thing, to as you already know, to actually reach to any particular computer, you always need to provide the IP address. IP address is the way to actually reach to any particular computer, and along with the IP, you also need to specify the port number, and the port number that in which the remote execution program runs is port number 22. That means you will have to specify the IP address and the port number to basically connect to any servers. And the moment when you connect to this particular program, then you will be able to run all the commands. Okay, now let us directly jump to the topic to understand the SSH. Now, why SSH is called the secured cell? Okay, because it kind of provide you as kind of a secured connectivity. Why it is secure? That is a completely different topic as of now. Let's not go into that aspect. Someday I will definitely take the class on this secured. Why it is called a secured shell? Okay, just understand this particular word shell, because it is actually giving you a shell of that particular system, that is a terminal of that particular system where you can run some kind of a program. Aditi, I hope you are understanding now what is the meaning, why I told you you can configure any software as a service if you follow this particular three step.
Yeah.
Okay, now let us see. So the software which actually give you the SSH command. Okay, the software is actually known as the Open SSL. Okay, so basically Open SSL is actually a command that basically give you this particular facility. Okay, now try Open SSH server. Sorry, the name of the server side program is your that give you the SSH command. Okay, is your Open SSH server. So let us install this particular software. Okay, ELF install Open SSH server. Okay, you see, by default, whenever you install a Red Hat VM, this particular software automatically comes installed with you. That is the reason why what it is saying, that it is already installed in your system. Okay, and by default, whenever you install a Red Hat operating system on top of your VM or any particular server, automatically SSH is already started as a service. So how you can configure that thing is systemctl status SHD. You see, the service is already running. Okay, and what is the so what is this meaning of the term enabled? So what happened in case of your HTTPS? Also, I forgot to mention one thing, that suppose you start your particular system and you want the moment whenever your server is started, your service should always be running. That means you don't have to go and manually write this particular systemctl start HTTPD or the service name. Okay, yeah, in start HTTPD, if you want that automatically your service start, in that case you have a command that is system enable HTTPD, that will keep your service permanently installed no matter how many times you turn on and turn off your operating system. Okay, similarly for SSH also you have this particular command. So for starting any services permanently, a systemctl enabled is the command through which you can actually start the service permanently. Okay, uh, enable yeah, enable, you see, system service enable is the command through which you can start your service permanently. If you want to disable, what you can do is you can just write disable. Okay, uh, you can write as disable. What will happen is this will actually disable your SSH program. Okay, you see, this is a program is removed, and the moment when you again want to enable it, just write you want to enable it permanently. Okay, and how you can configure whether it has been enabled or not enabled, you can see the moment if it is enabled, it will always come as right enabled, and if you disabled it, okay, if you disable, if you check, it is come as disabled. Okay, you can see it is coming as disabled. So let us enable the service for now. Okay, and one more thing, we have already done the first step, that is to install the software, and the second is to configure the software, and the root location for this particular server, I think SSH, is your etc/ssh/sh the config file. Okay, this is your default configuration file of your SSH. Okay, where all the instruction related to SSH is already written from beforehand. Okay, let us go and see. If you want to see, let us go inside this particular directory. I think the folder name was cd slash etc slash sh. Okay, now you see currently, yeah, this is as a config file.d, right? cd ssh. You can space double tap. Okay, just by writing double tap, it will be automatically it will complete your file. Now, if you do ls, okay. Uh, so if you try to read the conf file, sorry, not here. If you try to read the conf file, sshd config file. Okay. Now, if you see what does this particular program, what this particular file says to you, okay, you see that anyone who comes from any particular network in this whole world, right? This particular line meaning is, if anyone from any particular network, if they want to connect to this particular server, should always run on port number 22. If you want, you can go and change this port number 23, 24, 25, 25 automatically. Okay, let's not try to change the port number as of now. Okay, so in that case, so if you want, you can go and change the port number. So because of this only, you try to understand from how the system comes to know what is the port number through which it is actually running on that particular system. And see, this particular port is actually listening on any network on this whole world. If they want to connect on port number 22, allow them to connect. Okay, so this is what is the meaning of the particular file is. Now let us see, and since you already know, our system is already started, but if you want, you can just start the service again. Okay. Okay, now we have already completed all the three steps. Since in our case, SSH already comes pre-configured, so we don't have to manually go and do anything. But yeah, if you want, you can go and change the port number and everything. And by default, the service is already started. But ultimately, if you go, see, all these three steps that you see is followed instead in case of HTTPD as well. Okay, now if you try to change the protocol, you will automatically have to restart the service so that it reloads your configuration. Okay, that means if I try to go and make this particular port as 23, if I try to make as port number 23, in that case, if I try to save this particular file, okay, I will have to restart this particular configuration file, okay, using the command restart ssd. Okay, and now if you see, if you try to restart your system, and now if you see route hyphen n tnlp, what happened tnlp, you will auto restart ssd and netstat hyphen tnlp automatically. Right now still you see in your server it is not updated that your ssd programs will run on port number 22. Okay, you see this particular line also over here. What it says you, it is running on port number 22. So when we restarted it still didn't got updated over here. Yeah, what
Uh,
Aditi, you have a question?
what does netstart stands for, or why this command is being used?
Okay, so netstat actually used to check the network statistics, and TNLP specifies your your TCP protocol. Okay, TNLP means TCP protocol. Okay, so network statistics to check, okay, in which particular application will listen to and which particular port number. And since you know SSH, HTTPS, HTTPD, all of them are actually running on your TCP protocol. Okay, so that is the reason it is written TNLP. If you want to check UDP protocols, you can check UNLP. Okay, like your
Okay.
CronyD, Wikidemon, all of them are runs on UDP protocol. You know, right? We are having TCP protocol and UDP protocol, right?
Yes.
So that is what this particular TNLP stands for. Okay, right now you see, I basically tried to change the particular port number, but this port number didn't got changed. Why? Because you will have to also update the firewall along with that. Only then this particular changes will start getting reflected over here. Okay, let us make that change. Let's not go into that particular topic. Let us again change the port number back to 22 as of now. Okay, now let us restart the service since we have made the changes, and let us try to see, it is showing port number 22. Now we have already configured our particular VM to run as a server. Now one more thing, to basically connect from any client server, okay, you also need to install some kind of a client application, okay, through which you will be able to connect to your server. Okay, so if you want to connect from your other Azure VM, so you'll also have to install a client side application over here. But uh, that client side application is called the Open SSL client. Okay, if you basically want to connect to this particular laptop, right now we are going to connect our Windows laptop. Okay, we are going to connect with our VM. We are going to connect with our Azure VM, and OpenSSL client is already pre-configured in our Windows laptop. It comes pre-configured already. One more thing, to basically connect to the computer, you always specify the IP address and the port. Okay, but after reaching to the IP address and the port, how will your client come to know with the power of which particular user does this program will run itself, right? IP and port is just a way to reach to this particular program, but the moment when you get a web interface, means I mean to say the moment when you get a shell, so you will actually have to run in this shell with some kind of a user power, right? How will you run? And that is the reason, the moment whenever you specify IP and port in case of SSH, you also specify the username and the password of that particular user. Okay, so that when you log in into this particular system, okay, automatically you start running with the in that system. Even when you are going to that system physically, you have to provide the your username and password to log in into the system, and then start using the terminal of the system. In the same way, if the clients also want to connect, you will actually have to specify the user ID and the password. Correct? So IP is just a way to reach to your computer, and through port number you can understand to which particular program it want to connect to. But if you want to use that particular program, so you should also know with the power of which particular user you will be able to do something on that particular system, right? So that is the reason, whenever you try to connect from the client, say right now our Windows, we are uh, we are the client and we are trying to connect to the uh, our this server machine, right? So we need to know the IP address. Let us see what is the IP address of our VM. Okay, so the IP address of the particular VM is 192.168.29.49, right? 192.168.29.49.
Dot 20.48.
Okay,
48.
and IP is just a way to basically reach to your system. You also need to specify the username with the power of which you are actually going to run into this particular system. Okay, that be just a way to basically specify. And by default, since you already know SSH runs on protocol port number 22, automatically it will take. Now, the moment when I try to connect with the user, so this is the user. That means I'm trying to connect to this particular system with the root user power. Okay, you see, it is asking me for the password of the root. I'm going to give you the root power password over here. This is masked. You will not be able to see because password are sensitive information that will. So by default, your password are always masked. Now you see, I'm logged into this particular system. Now, if I want, I can go and run into this system. Now I can confirm. If you check the IP address, okay, if you try to check the IP address of this particular system, you see 192.168.49. So I am ultimately from the client machine using the IP address, and you already know SSH already runs on port number 22. So by default, what happens is you automatically land into this particular system, and you actually get a terminal or a web interface where you can go and start running the commands. Okay, this is what your secured cell is. Now you can so there are different ways to connect. Say right now, if you want to exit from that remote session, you can click on exit. The connection will be closed. So if you want that, as soon as you log in, okay, as soon as you log in, the date command should run, and it should automatically exit from your system. Okay, you can specify the command in this way. So what will happen, the moment I press enter, date command will run and it will exit. Okay, right now this is what I done. Now if you want, I want to run one more command, that is date and cal command. Okay, the moment when you log in into the system, date cal command will run in this particular system. Okay, and it will automatically exit from that system. Okay, it will automatically exit from that system. Okay, now you can also, there are multiple ways to log in into the system. One of the other way is, if you write like this. Okay, so if you write like this, or use an option L, if you use this or this, means the same thing. Ultimately, if you don't use this, automatically your command will be using this particular login, that is hyphen L. Mm, it uses the hyphen L option on the.
We even use SSH-I also, right?
You use hyphen I, but you can use hyphen I, then you will have to, I is for the identity, and you have to use T for getting the terminal.
Yeah.
Okay, you will have to use both. If you try to use only hyphen T, you will not be able to run. Okay, you need to use hyphen IT. I means identity of that particular user. Along with that, you also need a terminal where you can actually run that thing. So you can use hyphen IT to run this thing. Yeah, so this is what SSH is all about. Okay, now why I was saying this, it is providing you a secured kind of connectivity. Okay, you can also use the public key and private key also to log in into the system, instead of using username and password in bigger companies, or if you work in multinational organization, they are actually using the private key and public key also. Okay, so that is the reason you see identity file option, identity file is actually being used in that case. Okay, so that is the reason. Yeah, that's all from my side. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.